big news reported over the weekend. This was in the Times that Frank Warren is to move his Queensberry stable over to DAZN, which would obviously unite him and Eddie Hearn, once rivals, now very, very, it seems like on the outside looking in, good friends. Queensberry, as it stands, has 1 year left with TNT, and there has been a lot of talk of TNT no longer staying in the combat sports market. So not just boxing, but also UFC as well. How surprised, Gareth, are you with the news? I know you're a man that's got his ear to the ground. I mean, is there any truth in this? Is there anything in it at all? Do you think it could happen? Should it happen? What's your thoughts, sir? Oh, as he sips a bit of the coffee.
I need to buy some time there. Frank Warren's been very cagey at the moment. In the interviews that he's given and things he said, I'd like you say, there's still time to run on this former BT, now TNT project. He's had a very long and fruitful period with TNT Sports or BT.
How long has it been? How long has that been? 6, 7 years or longer?
I think it's 6, 7, 8 years, is it?
Yeah, about that I'd say, yeah.
When you think that Box Nation was there for a couple of years and they were allowed to almost dual cast a lot of the events, and that there was a relationship there with BT Sport as well as Box Nation. It doesn't surprise me if it is going to happen, but it's understandable that Warren doesn't want to comment publicly on that at the moment, because it could be that they're working through this new deal. It'd be around about now. They'd be talking if they are going to do a new deal. The relationship with BT Sport and TNT, I'm calling it both because obviously it went over to TNT a little while ago. The relationship and the growth of the Wilder and Fury fights that were epic and enormous and astronomical in terms of what happened with those. Yeah. Because Tyson Fury is very much the character on that platform. But it also depends on whether the broadcaster has an appetite to stay in this sphere, in this realm. And we also know, as we spoke about earlier, that the Saudi Arabians are bringing promoters together in the US. We know that Oscar De La Hoya's on DAZN, Golden Boy. We know that Eddie Hearn's on DAZN. They're both in America as well, a lot on DAZN. I mean, I do events in the Middle East, Rising Stars Arabia, that are on DAZN. There's a whole panoply of events, and maybe they are being encouraged to be under one banner. And you know, we know there's an appetite from the Saudi Arabians to have everything in one place.
And I think we saw Turkey tweeted that, didn't he? I think a couple of days ago. He said, currently very impressed with DAZN. I'm paraphrasing here. Very impressed with DAZN. One day, hopefully, all combat sports, and he included sort of MMA under that banner, are on DAZN. So, there's clearly some influence, I think it's fair to say, from the Saudi Arabians behind this as well. But there's also, and this is sort of known knowledge, that TNT have started to cut costs as well. And maybe the jump from BT to TNT hasn't been as profitable for TNT as they would have liked. So maybe there is a bit of cost-cutting exercise going on. Who knows what contract on offer is available to Frank Warren from TNT, and that maybe contract looks a lot better on DAZN, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I've got no information on the cost-cutting at TNT Sports other than, you know, kind of apocryphal stories, if you like, or rumor mill on the street. But I think with boxing, if you've got big events, they sell. We know it's not. We know it's not a. It's an unusual graph. It's peaks and troughs. Big events get big numbers. Big names get big numbers. In between, you don't necessarily get big numbers to events. So that's paying for events. Whether they believe it's boxing and the boxing they've got is good enough to be increasing their viewership. Obviously, you and I have talked about this on air before we started the show as well. Soccer, football, is the big thing. Yeah. That's what gets people to buy
That's
that
why you
subscription.
buy your monthly subscription. You
Yeah,
don't buy
people
it for
spending
boxing.
£1,000 a year kind of on it, aren't
Yeah,
they?
yeah.
Almost.
Boxing's almost a bonus to the
Yeah,
subscription, as
exactly.
opposed you're buying it for your subscription. You know the way in which DAZN obviously works in America with Eddie and Oscar is it's separate events, right? Eddie does his events and Golden Boy do their events. And look, this is obviously just sort of I don't know. We're sort of pie in the sky talk right now. If TNT were so if Queensberry were to land on DAZN over here, would you see it being similar? As in, still Frank does his own thing, Queensberry and Matchroom do their own thing, or could we see joint events where they both team up? No, okay, fair.
No, because you need that competition still. That's going to be one of the features here. What's the competition rivalry going to be like? There's only 52 weekends a year, remember, as well.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
does that mean we're going to start having Friday fight nights and
We
Thursday
should,
fight
we
nights and
should.
Wednesday? I think we will. No, I
Yeah.
think we will. We'll need to do that when there's a big event. There's nothing wrong with a Friday fight night. Love it.
Nothing,
I
nothing
mean,
at all.
I've told
I
you
grew up
before.
on that. Yeah.
I go. Listen, Fraser Clark and Fabio Wardley. That was on a Sunday, if you recall, Easter Sunday. That was amazing. I go back to the days when I think it was Billy Schwer fought in a world title fight on a Wednesday night, and I remember covering that on a Wednesday night. And it's why shouldn't it happen? Why should it just be on a Saturday night? So I think what's nice to see if they believe that one saloon bar, one town is big enough for all of them. For all the egos, for all the events, for streamlining the sport a little bit more. Maybe it's a good thing. No one's done this before with all the sport. Well, they have years ago. I'm talking back in the 70s when all boxing was on the BBC, and there were two venues you could use basically. When the cartel, as they were called, Jarvis Astaire, Mickey Duff, and those guys, Mike Barrett, when all those guys were working together, controlled the sport. Maybe it is the answer for it to go back to all being on one platform. It's going. I think it does make it more powerful in a way because at least.
What does that mean then? Sorry to cut across. What does that mean then for Boxer and for the Sowlands? Obviously, the Sowlands do their events on Channel 5, not as frequent, obviously, as Matchroom and Queensberry. Boxer do their events, and they've started to, it looks like they're trying to pick up again as well. Now, what does it mean for those two?
Well, terrestrial TV is always generating big numbers. So
Yeah.
Channel 5 always does big numbers because people turn on, and while there's still an older generation watching mainstream channels 1 to 5, they'll still see it. It's got a big parlay with the British audience. If those events are good enough, if the stable's good enough, I think it still survives on Sky and on Channel 5, as you say. But the Sowlands have already got a relationship with DAZN because they do the Misfits events. So, and I don't think they'll go away. So there's a relationship there already with DAZN. Sky is the fascinating one. I mean, it's been a powerhouse of boxing for 30 years now, since the early 90s. And Sky Box Office is an incredibly powerful tool, as is its news channel. And I think that will be a loss to boxing in lots of ways.
Big time.
Because I think...
Big time. I agree. Big time. Like DAZN, as good as sort of Queensberry are at promoting, and as good as Eddie is at talking, Eddie will talk to anyone, right? He can sell sand to the Arabs. There is no platform to promote like Sky Sports News. There just isn't. They just neither have that. There isn't no. I still can't believe, and this is me. If DAZN are listening, I still can't believe there isn't a weekly magazine show or twice weekly, even TNT as well. I can't believe that there isn't these shows to promote their fights leading up to the week and then to talk about their fights after, like what we do here, for example, Fight Night Extra. How they don't have that yet is beyond me.
Well, I'm very happy for them to use us if they want to.
Absolutely. I mean, we can, we're not greedy. We'll take what we're given.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with you. Look, like you say, the powerhouse that Sky Sports and Sky Sports News and therefore Sky Box Office is cannot be underestimated. The decision is going to come from those people right up there, Eddie, that sit in the boardroom, that look at the 3 and 5 and 10 year plans that they've got. And if I were them, I would keep boxing going. You never know the way. Like you said at the top of the show, it'll be fascinating to see where boxing is in 2 years' time. We were saying how much it's changed in the last 6, 7, 8 years. I think the world's changing enormously at the moment. How we consume things is changing. How getting million pay-per-view buys used to be the target. Now, if you get 200 or 300, you know you've got your niche there.
Yeah.
You know that niche is there and they'll be there. The biggest question for boxing is, can they get the general public to believe in the big names again and follow them and bring big numbers back to the sport by, like you say, following a platform that's got most of the big fights on it, which is what DAZN are going to have
as well. That's my fear for over here.
Yeah.
The two biggest names, obviously, are both in their mid-30s, and that's Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. And I've always said this, and I'll ask you now: who are the next biggest stars? And I'm talking that level, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm talking AJ Fury level. Who's going to be those guys in the next 3 years when AJ and Fury will depart the sport? Who's going to be the flag bearer for British boxing?
Well, Anthony Joshua has been a big name for about 8 or 9 years now, a really big name.
Massive,
Tyson Fury became a big name in 2015, then disappeared, and then became a big name again from 2018 onwards, and is an extraordinarily big name now. Both of them, they're only a year and a half away from going from the end. Deontay Wilder, we've talked about many times, is gone. He's not what he was. We've lost the Anthony Joshua fight with him. We've lost the fight with him, and I don't know others. Maybe I don't know other guys he could have fought, but there are. Joe Joyce is a guy we salivated over him fighting. I think for me, once those guys have gone, and they've probably only got 3 fights each left. Once they've gone, we are really looking at what Jared Anderson can do in the States. Bakadir Jalilov, 2-time amateur world champion, Olympic champion from Tokyo, who's again in his late 20s, but is definitely a coming star. Moses Tauma here, is he the takeover? Yeah. I mean, there's 3 names. And that is probably the 3, those are probably the 3 major names at the moment. But we don't know. I mean, the princes, the 7 princes, as I call them in America, have already risen. Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia, Tank Davis, Shaka Stevenson, Vasyl Lomachenko, Keyshawn Davis, and there's one other, Tio Lopez. Those 7 are already risen. They're already there on that platform. It's very hard to predict in boxing because people become stars through public clamour. I remember Carl Froch when he beat Jean Pascal at the Nottingham Ice Rink in 2007, 2008, saying I'm a superstar now. But no, he wasn't. The world chooses when you're a superstar. Tyson Fury's debut that night, by the way. So we don't know yet who is going to have a resonance with the public, and in 2 years' time or 3 years' time, we're going to go through another shift, probably because of social media as well. So it might be someone who's amazing on social media, but is not that good in the ring, but goes all the way. It's very difficult to predict. I mean, you could say Hamza Shiraz right now. You could say Dalton Smith might be a big star. You could say Adam Azim might be a big star. You could say Ben Whittaker might be a big star. But we don't really know.
Yeah, we don't. And that's the beauty of it, right? I mean, someone could just pop up right in front of our eyes and take over the sport of boxing. That's what we want.